And here we go. We got this game, we got one more, and then we'll have NA West just right after that, and then we do it all again tomorrow. Also, don't forget, make sure you tune in at the top of the show tomorrow. We got something real spicy for you.
Can't wait to see what that's all about, but here it is. Game 5 is underway. It's a south drop for the zone. Everyone touches down. Voyo and XF finally being contested here. And this is, again, a contested drop for Voyo and XF. We've seen them be so successful for the entire semis run. Smacked and Cobalt, though, gets shut down here. The one time Smacked and Cobalt actually got out of here, they played really, really well. We saw that for sure as they made an endgame, but talk about two very skilled teams, unfortunately, just clashing at a drop spot, not big enough for two.
And Cobalt now, he's just kind of have to chill, but there's only one spot you're really going to hide, and you see him. He wants to try and drop down and find a right hand that he's able to sit behind. He does have that drum shotgun off of the rip, where if you want a weapon to 1v2 with, as we saw Peterbot do, this is it. The difference being it's really strong right off the rip if your opponents don't have shields. That's not really the case here.
Yeah, these guys already have the siphon material. Now a little bit more loot. The more time that he waits, the more likely Voyo and XF are to just get situated here and find more to win this fight out. Here it is, though. They start to commit on into Cobalt. Cobalt is just hoping they walk in and give him the fair 1v1. You hear the shots going off. He gets a knock, but it's not going to be enough here. Voyo will be able to finish that up, and just like that, they hop their way into 19th place with 2 eliminations there. On over to Slacks and Clarity G. Last game, Sleepy Sound. That battle bus actually worked against them. They were taken out right away.
And this time we've had a different bus than we've seen. It was almost due south, due north, right down the middle, which doesn't favor really any part of the map unless you're going to the extremes towards the outside. But because everyone's kind of moving at the same time, we have seen less duos taking that initial chip damage because somebody on the earlier part of the bus path is able to abuse them, right? So now we're going to see probably a little bit more dragged out fights here in these POIs. Unless somebody wants to get moving, and Clarity, he is moving.
Yeah, they're trying to make up for lost time there. Clarity G and Slacks were in 2nd place coming into that game 4, getting taken out the rip there. Had them hard stuck at 92 points, and now you're seeing that all these other teams took advantage of it. Those bubble teams that were within that top 15 have now managed to claw their way into this conversation and put themselves within a competitive reach of them. For Peterbot and Byla falling outside the top 25, they did enough to at least give them some points. It wasn't just a dud round by any means last game.
Yeah, I mean, 5 points isn't bad, but it really cut into their average of scoring about 50 points a game. As you can see, Peterbot still in first with total elims, sitting on 14. Which is absolutely bonkers. He is just in eliminations, not talking any amount of placement. He's accountable for 42 points himself. That is really impressive. As you see Acorn get a knocking confirmation onto Fable Taco in the feed.
For the first time, though, we're seeing him get pushed out a little early here from the Collider, forced to the outskirts, having to give away all that center point loot that's so valuable for Acorn and Edgy, though. They were in 14th last game. They have slipped down so far down because they fell early this time now, fighting up against Golden here. And of course, Fable Taco, this is a drop that they don't contest each other, but they fight for some loot within each other's pathing. And teams will fight back, right? They will push players back. Edgy does manage to find the full elimination there, and that's the finish. The 2 elims for them now. And that's all because, you know, Fable Taco and Golden, they get a little greedy, right? They say, oh, we want some more loot. We're going to go for that floor loot, and now it forces a fight.
And those are massive upgrades on either side. Edgy sitting on an epic striker pump as well as a legendary combat shotgun. I believe there was combat SMG. I believe there was another legendary weapon that he's going to gift over to Acorn. And I mean, they're in prime position. Edgy is actually, I was about to say, he's going to do the smart thing and rotate back over to Acorn because Sentin and Cold, they're rolling up. But right now, our second place duo, they're getting pinched again. Clicks and Day were actually able to make the 3-2-1 work this time.
They managed to find him last time. This time, he fights back, but Lawrence does not do enough. Clicks goes down, Day goes down. Threats and Rise are seeing this all unfold outside, and they have an option to weigh in here, but they say, no, we're not going to go head-to-head with Clicks and Day here. It's not worth it. They back out, and just like that, we get to hop on over to another exciting fight of Scented and Cold. They open fire onto Acorn and Edgy, but they don't find enough to finish the battle here. So this will stall out.
Yes, for those of you who don't know, FaZe Walltaker 7 is FaZe scented. The reason he goes by Walltaker is they play low ground all the time. He's generally the one trying to get up on the walls and set up cold. With that being said, when you are one of the best players in your region, please rep your brand, rep your name. Let us give you all the clout when we throw your name up there when you get the VR. We want to see FaZe scented. We want to see your name. We want to be able to celebrate you. It makes it easy in that regard. We don't have to do any of the guesswork because we're going to swing on over to Man City Preps.
And for the most part, our players this season done a great job.
Oh, yeah.
That is the only one, one of the biggest.
Miro early on. Miro early on. Had to call him out on that too.
But we're talking today actively in the FNCS finals. So scented, you know, step up. But player 5 pops off here. He finds himself a nice little elimination. That's a much needed one for them. They still have just again, a mountain to climb in front of them. Their journey's just beginning here on the standings. That edges them on up to 31. For Bizzo and Diego, their journey is continued to be halted here at the Sleepy Sound. This time, though, to the hands of Melito and Ignali, who roll on in out of nowhere. Melito and Ignali, of course, making their first big statement out of the semifinals. They're picking up a win, and then, of course, those qualifiers where they continue to pick up wins, which was so impressive because we hadn't seen them before. But that is what the FNCS platform's all about.
Another duo who is fighting in their first ever FNCS final, trying to make it through. Somebody who is no stranger to the finals. In fact, they got a couple of Acts of Champions videos up on their socials here. Sentinels, Buga, Dignitas, Miro, trying to find a little bit of room, a little bit of space here. Slightly, I feel like this is the 4th time we've had a pretty much center first zone, which is making all of these rotations a little interesting, but also something interesting to note, Monster. Take a peek at the top left. 1, no solo riders around. 2, this is far and away the lowest we have seen the player total this early on in the game. So you can tell, NAEs, they're settling in a little bit. They know where they can push, they know where they can fight, and we're starting to see some of these fights resolve a little bit quicker, a little more confidence coming on the teams who are playing really well, one of which being Avery and Muzz. Hey, they're right there in the conversation.
Yeah. You know, what we start to find is, you know, teams kind of fine-tune their play style. So since this is a faster-paced game, more action, you'll notice next game will most likely be a slower-paced game. It's almost like the teams that did a little too much say, all right, maybe I overextended, I'm going to play a little slower, and the ones that kind of found success try to continue to keep up that pace because they have success and they make more points. So it does determine a lot depending on how your game plays out ultimately, but you will find it's sort of like a tug-of-war. It'll always find its balance back and forth. For Agers and Kanata, again, talk about a team that just did not start off very hot. We talked about how those zones that when they landed on top of them was not working. Now look at this. For the earliest time, we see them get straight into center zone. They're not playing that outskirt stuff anymore. They don't want to hear any of that noise. They're trying to play for tax.
And I like this because Kanata has some amazing shots normally. Unfortunately, that was probably a little bit of an outlier where he's trading out the damage. And if he'd had a shield cake, that'd be great. But looking at the inventory, only 4 minis is going to be forced to take a big pot here because he doesn't necessarily want to catch one of those stray sniper rounds. And you can even see Qua and Tabs G with a little bit of a split. They're looking straight down here. They have to be very careful with the angles.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they can see directly inside this box. So Qua and Tabs G, very, very dangerous position for our Kanata and Agers there. Peterbot and Bila, however, on the other side, the Collider, they are sitting right on top of that launch pad. They have, of course, the center point to rotate on into and move into. They're exceptional here. Just take a look at it. Also, take a look at Users and Skittles there in the distance. 16th place. They were so far out of the conversation, but one endgame was all it took to put them on the bubble here inside today's FNCS. And again, this is just day 1. Tomorrow is day 2. So there's a long tournament run in front of us.
And right now, we've got a little bit of space to breathe. We're going to kick it on over to SBG. What you got for us?
Hey, Sundown MDF, I got you guys. We're checking in with Peterbot and Bila. They've been landing at the Collider and doing so well from it. Now getting zone. So not only are you getting a solid POI, you're also getting that guaranteed launch pad. You're getting zone right on top of you. And I've been watching them. They've been picking up a ton of Surge tags. So I would be highly doubtful to see them under Surge. Back to you guys.
That makes so much sense as well, as we get to see how they position up here, start to take those fights, right? Those tags.
And last game was the first time we actually saw them under threat from Storm Surge, right? When they weren't necessarily being as aggressive, staying around and trying to posture up. And that caused them a little bit of problem. It caused them to be slow on the rotation going through. And right now you see Scented, he's going to be more than willing to just spray these shots out, because look at the excess, particularly when it comes to shields. The shield cake, one of the best things you can utilize when you're looking for tags. You can just throw it down and trade out with people.
We got such a variety change in the storms as well. Let's just talk about these zones. This one's going west now. You know, we've kind of had some of these center positions, this one's going east here. We've had a lot of these western zones for the most part. Finally now we're getting a little bit of a center piece at play, more eastern than anything we've seen today. This is going to change up the dynamic of the game. So, you know, our players today haven't quite experienced a zone like this that can also play its factor into the lobby.
Now, my prediction, Jamper and Duke, honestly, the biggest surprise from them is they were so dominant during the qualifiers when they were playing from the high ground position. They just haven't had the room to really make those plays. This time, though, it feels like they're given a lot more space. They have a lot more shields, and I would anticipate if there was a game where they're going to look for height, this would probably be it.
I mean, let's be honest, these 5 games, we saw Pam and Fatch go crazy for high ground game 1. Peterbot and Byla just decide, nope, we're fighting for it in game 4 or so. All in all, there are some teams in here willing to play for height. It has not been easy. So for Jamper and Duke, like you said, I mean, it is just about, can we find a chance to? How worth it is it? Will the stars align for them? Here's Clicks and Day, though. 64 above, this is not good. They know it's not good, and this is why they're trying to set up a fight right now. Looking for some tags, but other teams start to put in their 2 cents here.
But this is the first time we've seen Day actively checking his side. Normally, he would be slamming his face on this wall, and he would have taken some chip damage. This time, the discipline in how he pushes, this is what I want to see more out of them. Because if they can convince that team to stop shooting at them, right, they're going to be able to push it. However, it doesn't seem like that's stopping anytime soon.
No, in they go. Still trying to look for opportunity here, but more shots coming in. Teams starting to look in, and now the pressure's coming in from multiple angles. It's not looking too hot for Clicks and Day here. Clicks loses all of his shield, and off to the races they go. They have to turn and burn here to go ahead and buy themselves some time. Another duo starting to hop into the mix, though. Sitting right above them is Oliver on the side there, but no, Mars and Crumbler are the team sneaking up behind them, and here it is. Day opens exchange back. Oh, he couldn't do it. Crumbler and Mars, however, get one for their troubles. The team in the distance just closes them out. So unfortunate.
And I love the calculated aggression coming out of the NRG duo, but the downfall has been how the rest of NA East plays. They're posted up and they're looking. They're not trying to get wall-to-wall like Clicks and Day are. If everyone else was doing that, they would be fine. However, everyone is just posted up, just throwing out these striker burst shots, and I mean, it makes such a big difference to the aggressive gameplay. Crumbler's able to get Mars back up on his feet, and because 2 duos are converging, this now becomes awkward. You can just kind of lead them into each other and back off.
And look at this, Oliver, OG, and Jeff. This is the most aggressive we've seen them.
They're below surge. They gotta go.
They're below the surge. They can also use a refresh here. No one wants to sit down and heal this one out. Looking at the Lou, however, though, they do have a very noticeable lead with the HP here, so they can do something very, very good. But here it is. It turns on. Great tag. That's enough for them to go ahead and chill out for a second, maybe heal up. But, of course, they might need a little bit more. Larson finds Crumbler, so this fight's still trading.
Yeah, Larson got the pair up there. He ended up knocking Mars right before that. And while Oliver and Jeff wanted to push up, Quanti and Larson are like, we will take all of those points. But first on 10th wall, Duke and Jamper are 100% under surge if they are pushing this. You can see the damage coming through. Peterbot and Byla, they just want to get away. You can see Duke has been taken down. Great shot from Peterbot, backing him up.
This is not looking good right now. Peterbot gets hurt here, and he has to back up. Byla is by himself. He's losing even more HP. There's another team looking in. It's the young boys of Ignali Melito. They're firing up from the side. Down goes Jamper, and Peterbot and Byla buy themselves a moment's time here. Byla just barely etches his way out, sneaks his way out that low ground. Usually you think being in that bottommost area is the most dangerous, but it was enough this time to keep a low profile, and all of a sudden they have a chance here.
Scented and Cold, the third place team, are trying to go over and pick up that refresh. As we see, Mac would end up getting trashy. One more player will need to fall before Storm Surge turns off, so somebody is taking that 25 damage every 5 seconds. But Peterbot and Byla have room. Additionally, too, we talked about how Peterbot tends to favor the high rate of fire weapons. This is the second game in a row we've seen him holding the Striker pump, so not necessarily having the same clutch potential we saw in games 1 and games 3. But right now, our first and third teams are rotating right next to each other, and Cold needs to be careful again with taking that chip damage as they're trying to edge their way into the zone and hopefully post up on one of these geysers.
And what we're seeing is our 5th place, Muzz and Avery, the team firing inwards towards Cold and Scented here. They have a line of sight on the Scented and Cold here, so already not looking too hot here. They're inside that metal box right in front of them. Our 6th place Scare Bear is there as well. Meanwhile, in the feed, a story is unfolding. Mega falls, Commandment falls, Stretch is down as well, so that's a full team wipe. And my gosh, talk about what could have been a huge shakeup had Peterbot and Byla gotten taken out there.
I mean, you're saying they're not looking too hot, but they're definitely not cold. Well, it is cold, but they're all right. They're boxed up in the full metal. They got a little bit of room around them. A little better off right now than Dubs and Mega. Mega picked up an Elam, but right now he's got Users and Skittles knocking on his door, and that's not a duo I necessarily want to let in if I'm Dubs. He's going to need to come up with a huge play here at only 120 effective HP. We are inside the first placement threshold, and Storm Surge has turned on.
And Dubs is a very important player right now, and I say that because he's holding on to 2 launch pads. Not 1, but 2. He's a solo as well, so if anyone finds him as a refresher, it's going to be a major turning point for their tournament game here for Thatch and Pam still kind of south here. They still have a little bit of zone to work with. Quite a stretch to play for the new Storm here when the rotate comes out. It does seem like they may have had some issues there with the Storm Surge as they are already down an inventory slot and halfway through their heals.
Right now, we're going to see a little bit of a slowdown. 4th zone did just get revealed. Everyone's going to pile around the outside. Don't forget, the 4th is the last of the completely concentric safe circles. So the next one will be that half in, half out as we're transitioning kind of from the mid into the moving circles of the late game. Right now, Hide and Seek and Nets currently up in 7th place. Hide and Seek had one of the most absurd individual performances we saw during the semifinals to really carry his team through on the back of his eliminations. Additionally, he's been the one who's just been kind of messing with all those Sleepy Sound teams. He's the one who's finding all of those tags off the start, and it's adding up, and it's putting them in a pretty good position. As we also have Iamzo with Degen down right next to our top 10 team, and he's got a decent ways to go.
Yeah, definitely. And this is Adam's pick here, so already being in 8th place and being a man down when you have such a long rotate in front of you is not looking good. But no, there's a wall open there too. It's Kanata and Agers who are looking in. They might just be thinking to go ahead and finish this fight, but instead they also have to worry about that zone there. So lucky for Iamza, who's up top. Kanata and Agers are going to go and take the footpath here into the geyser. Out they go. That's a free rotate straight across. Iamza, of course, has to wait for it to go ahead and get off, and there it is. He slides on in. Off he goes with his free rotate, so a great spot to put himself in.
But if I'm Kanata and Agers, I'm just turning around and looking at him. Like, I know he's there, but he's going to get a decent amount of room. He's boxed up directly on top of it. The one thing to note, no excess heals, no excess shields, and he's building pretty sparsely. They should know he's a solo. Right now, Walker's currently sitting in 6th place. Him and Scare Bear looking for some room, but they are below the Storm Surge 76, so they're going to start throwing some damage out there.
Walker's, man, really making a statement, making a name for himself here.
Big fan of
this
this
team
kid.
that's landing outside the Command Cavern. I said there was 3 top 10 teams. There's 4 top 10 teams at the Command Cavern if you include Walker's and Scare Bear, who land just outside of it, right up above them. You saw Muzz and Avery there for a second, so this is their direct competition, who is currently sitting in 5th.
Aviv just picks up Pam Stout and Thatch. They will be knocked out. We have now seen 2nd, 7th, and I believe that was just 9th also being taken out. So a little bit of daylight on the top of the table as Walker's is below, Avery is below, right side of your screen. Action's gonna happen, but Walker's with a monstrous shot. It should be enough to just barely put him back above. If they're able to isolate Muzz, and they do, he gets taken down and Surge finish him off. That is a gift from above for them.
Not only that, they snatch 5th place directly from Muzz's hands there. They say, give me that. That's 3 more points to add to their elimination count this game here, and it's looking very, very good. Scare Bear and Walkers are now effectively right above Avery here, and Avery needs to do a little bit more. He's going to ultimately have to come down and possibly take this fight here. No one's opening their boxes. And remember, the last team to do damage onto Avery was Walker, so they could be getting a free set of points right now. Just depends here. One more tick. Here it is, and down he goes. Will they get the placement points? I believe so. They might be recognizing that here shortly, and it should be Elims on top of Elims. Out comes the rotates, though. They pull half in, half out, and everyone's starting to come on in now.
You can see the immediate rotation. Everybody wanting to pack in. You have a first place duo over there. We're going to jump on over to fourth place. They're 145 above, so we don't have to worry about that. But Booga and Miro want to get going. They don't like being that far behind. They don't like playing catch-up. They like being able to enter the tournament management mode right now. The only players below, well, one more tick. I'm sorry, Chimp. Unfortunately, the Purple Lightning will take it out. Storm Surge turns off, and we are into our cascading placement points as we hit 25 duos remaining, and a whole bunch of players go down after that. Chimp to Quentin, Who Fishy, awful.
Yeah, definitely. Players fall, points get rewarded to everyone else there in the game, and we have a new team poising themselves up for high ground as Polo and Shoni go down just on the outskirts there. Skittles and Users, however, are in a bit of a fight here, being pressured in by Peterbot and Byla. Cold and Scented also jump into this, so you have numbers 1 and 3 putting pressure into another team that could be jumping into that top 10. Zone looks like it's going to favor this eastern or western side here for the teams that majority have the zone pull.
And you saw Cold pause for a second. You also see in the bottom right-hand corner that little white marker. That is Cold marking the edge of the safe zone. So there's no guesswork. You know exact path you need to go. You have a marker there. Now we're going to turn on over. Peterbot and Byla, they have so much more resources, and we talked about it. Peterbot has the drum shotgun. That was the enabler in game 1 and game 3. Can he make a difference? We see 12 below to only 11 above, so they're going to have a little bit to get going, and instead they're going to rotate with the pad, which is key because they're in the air when they could possibly be taking shots. That's going to dictate them needing to take a fight soon as everyone else gets on their rotation.
Take a look. Booga jumps up here, trying to play for that mid-ground alongside Miro there. They end up clashing. They actually land right on top of Peterbot and Byla. They might be fighting each other here. Meanwhile, on height, Haji and Subscript, they're going for it. They need a big win to put them back in it. Booga finds Elite's death there. Down he goes as N-Pen falls as well. So already, Booga and Miro finally get their first set of eliminations here as they desperately needed it. But the chop comes through. High ground comes down. Luckily, Haji and Subscript reconnect there. Meanwhile, down here, a big fight.
They have to get the refresh here. We talked about them not having any extra resources, any extra shields, and actually, Sentence just gonna drop all of his stuff. He said, "Go on, my son, do what you do." And Cold says, "I got you, I'll carry the torch." He finds a huge refresh on the backside. That's a 4-point jump. Now he needs to cover. Tries to get the wall at it, tries to find the pre-fire. He's not gonna do it. We have second place on our top right, first place in the bottom right, everyone else on the wide with Haji and Subscript on the high ground. Cold just barely hanging on by a thread. If he steps outside the zone, if somebody sneezes on him, and that's gonna take him down.
Booga's down, Miro's down, and just like that, the standings once again open up for Kanata, Agers, who are still alive here. And you can see, so is Peterbot and Byla. They are playing out of the world today. Walkers and Scare Bear hop their way on up to the 3-digit mark inside that top 100. It's looking good for them. They still haven't picked up anything yet, though. They're playing smart. Low ground, front side. They have a team right above them. It's Doji. It's Rokane. They're in 6th. There's a big set of eliminations that can open up for them, but nothing comes from it. Meanwhile, Kanata finds Macklin on the side there. TK, however, just playing a solo clutch here. He's sitting back in the storm. He's got a lot of time to work with. But where is Joji? Where is Rokane? They're still sitting on that zone there. All these teams are inside the top 10. They're starting to get clashed in on top of one another.
And Rokane and Joji are picking up a bunch of elims on the backside of the zone, but Byla and Peterbot aren't slowing down either. They just found a pair and it's on to users. Scare Bear goes down. Scare Bear goes down. That means every single person who is on the front page has basically been taken out, except our leaders. What can they do wrong? No, I say that. Walkers is still up on his feet, trying to make the solo catch. Can he keep the story going?
He's got to be careful, though. He just face-checked into Kanata and users who's right up above him. Shots come from below, though. It's Kanata. They're trying to pull them on down. Kanata is playing this one out by himself as well. He's going to go for the big pot here. Meanwhile, Aviv and Elite Gold have managed to claw their way back in. There's a solo. No, that's a duo set in front of them. Aviv tries to go for the wall tick. It's not looking good. They get blocked out here, but this is it. Rokane's out of mats. He just has barely whatever Joji just dropped for him. It's a small split for him. And look at how many teams are looking to collide here. Byla and Peterbot might just really rack up here. There's one opportunity. Down goes Walkers in third. Bye-bye. Another set goes for them. That's 6 elims now.
And Byla needs to work back to Peterbot. Peterbot is the one with the heals. You see him taking the block. Huge shot onto Rokane there. And Peterbot dropped his drum shotgun. He says, Sundown, what you know about me, baby? I'll do it with the striker. And he finds one, but doesn't get the confirmation as Joji and Rokane try and throw a little bit there. But Haji and Suscript, they've been on the high ground the whole time.
Now down they come. Joji here is just edging his way out. Haji is making what he can with this little zone here. He's just trying to edge his way all the way around the side. It's a 2v1 situation here. Aviv has managed to make it this far. Suscript and Haji, however, are now officially out of material. Aviv, what can you do as now Haji jumps into that box? Suscript plays it smart. He backs on out. There goes the big shot. And just like that, they put themselves on the board. Nice little victory royale for Suscript and Haji.
Yeah, great high ground control from them. They weren't tempted to drop down. They didn't want to look at the eliminations. They saw all the fracas and the chaos that was going down out there, and they're like, all right, we'll take the dub. It's free, right?
And a big opportunity now for Aviv, who jumps on into number 3 there, a top 3 position for him. Haji and Suscript, congrats